Sam. On that note, I am not a celebrity, I'm just a speaker, so just to cover the data. How many of you wish that you had better engagement with your attendees or your exhibitors? Okay, now I won't take the time because I only get 10 minutes, but I've asked this question and the follow-up is usually, what do you think the word engagement then means? And the interesting thing is most of the time people come back with things like participation and collaboration and all these other pieces. But if you actually look at the definition of engagement, all it means is an upfront agreement on objectives between parties. That's the definition. So what we're uncovering is that for us to have better engagement at our events, we need to uncover objectives. In any relationship, unmet expectations is the biggest problem. So this conversation around objectives has become critically important. As Sam mentioned, we actually have done research. Now we've talked to almost 2 million attendees over the past 10 years, asking a generic question, and this is my AI moment. We actually used AI to collaborate, to collate the data and bring it out. And it basically says, as he said, they want to learn, network, have fun, and do business. That's why they're at the event. And we've broken that down into a framework that I want to unpack for you today. So rather than giving you a bunch more data, we're going to unpack the practical nature of how do I uncover objectives at the event and what do I do about that. So we've broken that into a framework we call excellence. Experience, learning, networking, and commerce. They're the core components, the core objectives of our attendees, and we reflected that in research with the exhibitors as well. And I'm going to give you a chance at the end also to participate in some new research where we talk to you as well. So as we go through this, I'm going to start with the perspective of the attendee, their primary objectives, why they are at your event, and what they're telling us. It's a simple question. We ask them right at the beginning, at the top. Once you have 100 points, spread these points across your core objectives. And you might say, well, it just looks like a peanut butter spread of all these things. The reality is what we found is substantial alignment across these choices. When they choose learning, that choice affects not just their choices around education, but what they don't choose, what they don't prioritize, and the other areas of how they engage at the event. So this simple question, which we're always looking for in broad research, if we can get it down to a simpler question, less is more. So we're going to dig into then what that means in each category. So we'll start with the attendee on experience. This attendee is looking at things like the location, they're dealing with bleisure, they are looking for the overall event environment, and when they make this choice, they are typically younger, which the younger the generations are, if you've followed the presentations we've given, they are more female in that situation. Because they're younger and they're entering their career, they are a lower decision-making capability, they identify themselves in that regard. I won't read all of these, but kind of setting this up, you'll see there's a little nugget off to the side of a little bit about what all of the attendees think about experience, and then the opportunities and risks that you can see. I think the risks that we're dealing with here is this cohort is really focused on the areas of overcrowding. And what they mean by that when we talk to them in our focus groups is they say that it's not just a crowded event, it actually is the overcrowding of schedules, which I won't ask for a show of hands, but you're all guilty of. We all overcrowd the schedule. You have, I can only attend 6 sessions. You give me 120, and I feel like I'm missing something which you think is good. They don't. So the learning perspective from the attendees' perspective, this is the one I think we're probably mostly familiar with at events. They come to learn. This is when you send them out a letter, their boss will let them come to the event. I'm there to learn. That's why I'm there. This particular area, though, begins to uncover a little bit more about them and how we match them later with exhibitors. So they're often seeking some sort of certification, but in this case, I want you to look at their secondary choice. When they chose learning and networking, the way they want to learn is they want to collaborate. They want to work more with their peers and connect in that way. If they choose learning and commerce, that is the attendee you want to show them why your show floor is a discovery place for learning, not just the classroom environment, and they will lock into that. They are the most sensitive, though, to the stale program, the same old, same old. If your content can be consumed online in a better way, they will do it. I like to say in a very cheesy way, but it's memorable. If you can do it on Zoom, don't do it in the room. If you are designing an event that could just be done fully online, you're doing it wrong. So this content consumption is a part of their goal, but they are looking at those secondary objectives as they go through. The networking piece has risen to the top. With our next generation event goers, the networking is one of the most important components, but this actually spreads across all generations. This actually has become, post-pandemic, one of the #1 goals of all attendees. And the interesting thing is, I've asked a number of audiences, who's in charge of networking at your event? And the answer in almost every case is everyone is in charge of networking at my event. There is not one person that owns the measurement, the science, and the application of activations around networking. I've yet to find a major event that's doing that, so come find me afterwards if you're doing that. This gives them, this attendee really wants to plan up front. They want to highlight peer meetups, the kinds of things where they can share different challenges, et cetera. But you need to understand that networking across the generations is not just a one-size-fits-all. Networking to the next generation, which we're going to see several of our young professionals highlighted here today, that generation, that's career insurance. Their opportunity to network with their peers is an opportunity to learn all the way through their career. It's fun to see the slides at the beginning of this of ECFs of the past. That's the conversation of earlier on in your career, you connected with other attendees, and those are the relationships. You may not be at the same company that you were at 20 years ago, but you built career-enhancing relationships. So pay attention to that career stage as to how they network. The commerce piece is surprisingly large, and this is what we want. We want the exhibitor to understand that there's a lot of people at our events that are there to buy and evaluate, and often other activities, unfortunately, will overshadow that. So this is the attendee that everyone is looking for from this perspective. This attendee, when we look across the several thousand that respond, they are a higher level influencer or key decision maker. They're there to evaluate and purchase. So get out of their way, make it so, make sure that the communications, their planning, everything that you're giving them in advance from a marketing communication focuses on that. Our exhibitors tell us overwhelmingly they're looking for quality over quantity. Let's give it to them. This is what exhibitors want, and these are the attendees that will give it to them. We're going to switch now and go back through the same thing, but from the exhibitor perspective. How do they reflect this? You would imagine they make different choices, but still almost even more columnar in the way they respond to the data. That when they talk about experience, we're not talking about specifically them having fun or the different types of things that we think of from an immersive experience. They're actually flagging things around operational experience. They want to have a more frictionless experience at the event. And so their profile reflects that. If they choose X, I would flag them in your data set. I would make sure that if they are choosing that this is the area that they're most focused on, that your sales teams are focusing on them. The opportunity to turn that around. Fernando shared last year on this stage that Reed was doing something where they actually took exhibitors that were at risk, worked on a program to turn them into VIPs, and the next year they came back and said, we actually would pay for that. Please don't stop. That experience is what we're looking for. So take heed to the exhibitor that's telling you that they want a more frictionless experience, because otherwise they may be at risk. The learning point of view begins to unpack for us an interesting perspective on the marketing community. This shows us our larger exhibitors. This is the exhibitor that is your bellwether. They are a much more mature marketing organization. Their goals are around thought leadership and brand impact. And this is the exhibitor you pay attention to, that if you don't provide them with those opportunities, they will create their own event and extend that opportunity elsewhere. The networking point of view, this is still a fairly mature marketing organization. They're more mid-sized booths, and they want to understand and unpack opportunities to connect. They are the ones that are demanding upfront to connect with attendees. We are advising those exhibitors, though, what the attendees want is not their sales teams, but they want their subject matter experts. And so pay attention to how that connection is made, which we'll talk about. The commerce piece is the most basic. It's what we're all looking for. These are our inline booths. They are there to buy. They are there to sell. And if they don't transact, their satisfaction at the event will go down significantly. We need to pay attention to who they are, what they want, and meet those objectives and reflect back. I made this many connections for you. We brought this many people to the floor. That's what that C-focused exhibitor is looking for. I want to quickly unpack a couple of things that Sam laid out for us, though. These packages, you might say, well, what does packages even mean? Very quickly, it's basically a different perspective depending on booth size and their key objectives. The smaller exhibitors are looking for basic, functional, serviceable packages, whereas the other exhibitors, the L and N focused exhibitors, are looking for a full package including speaking and sponsorship opportunities, a more mature marketing relationship with you and your customer. This idea of setting up meetings in advance, very important to understand what we mean by that. How do we do that and still maintain data privacy? Well, we can see here that data personalization is something that consumers are used to. If you give them something in return, they will share their information with you. Obviously, in a secure and appropriate environment where they can connect with the right people, with the shared objectives that match, whether it's with other attendees or subject matter experts, and of course, surrounded by the appropriate policies to make sure that data privacy is still at the core. That is a lot of information. I hope we've unpacked the excellence framework in a way that you can understand. I'll give you two opportunities. The research that we've provided here today, you'll be sent a link where you can download the research yourselves, as well as, and this is the most important part, we want to get your opinions. We have a new survey that's opened up, and you'll be given a link to share your opinions, which will be unveiled in an exclusive webinar this fall if you participate. So please download the research, and we look forward to your feedback. Thank you.